Drunken Disorderly podcast brought to you by the Launchpad Media. Go to www.thelaunchpadmedia.com for all your podcasting needs. And I'm way behind today, and I'm sorry because Caleb used this last, and I don't even know where my sticky notes are at. But don't worry, we're going to get those crawlers going on the bottom of the screen here in a minute. Okay, too fucking hot in this room. Yeah. So, the Launchpad Media. Let's talk about this for a second. Doing some awesome things there. Go check out the website. Definitely, like I said, keep saying, check out Sounds Like Liberty. It's a great podcast. And it's a great break from talking about all the serious things that we talk about in the movement. Like, you know, police murking dogs. Yeah, I saw one of those videos today and it pissed me off. So go listen to them have cool people on talking about like dorky music. Like I went on there and talked about K-pop because I'm a fucking nerd. So that's what you have to look forward to there. Go to our Anchor for the audio version of this. YouTube. We just got the ability to stream to YouTube, and we're going to try to figure out how to do both at the same time. That'll be fun. We also have, what else do we have? Our Subscribestar. Go to subscribestar.com/drunk-n-disorderly and help us out. We are doing a lot of really cool things. We're trying to get to a bunch of conventions. We might be hosting some really cool debates soon that we're going to need to be live. And I just dumped a bunch of money on new gear. You're a dumb mask, Justin.
Hi, Justin.
So all that said, Dre, take us away.
Hello. You know, I don't have much today. All I have is first world problems, so I'm not going to bore you guys with it. I've been sick for 2 days, and luckily you can't see what is really happening on my face right now, thanks to the dryness and anyway, thank goodness for cameras that are this far away. So I'm just going to go ahead and welcome our guests. I'm sure many of you already know Mr. Adam Kokesh. Welcome to our show, sir.
Thank you very much.
So where in the world are you today? You're on the
We
bus.
are in Long Beach, California, and it's a great place to visit, but I'm glad I don't live here anymore.
Oh, yeah? Going to hell in a handbasket like the rest of California, or what?
Well, you know, one of the things about this campaign is just like how much it unites people, and even in California, where they're having this great socialist experiment and they would be better off without the federal government. There's a great movement here. You know, there was the movement to try to cut up California into 6 different states. So they'd have 12 senators and the Democrats would rule the U.S. Senate, and then 3 states and blah, blah, blah. But now what's taking hold at a much more grassroots level is the Cal Exit movement. And obviously California splits off. They're something like the 7th largest economy in the world at that point. And to think that, well, the way we like to say is that people in San Francisco are writing laws for people in San Antonio. And yes, that's about Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, it's absurd. People want to get away from this. So we have a great event. We have a punk show coming up Friday with 390 in Huntington Beach. We've had some awesome events here so far. It's been a blast. I mean, except for the gas tax prices, you know, like I love visiting California, and I say that sometimes where I live in Arizona is California East, but I'm from California originally, Cali boy at heart.
So I apologize to everyone for those weird technical issues we just had. Dre's coming back in now, and I'm sorry that you just saw the mess that is my studio. Here's the problem. The door was open to the basement today, and the big dog ran through. So my room isn't clean to begin with, but he trashed it, and I didn't get it all picked up yet. So I apologize. Dre's back. So Adam, you've had a busy week because everywhere I've seen Dan, I've seen you. So you want to talk about what you've been doing this week?
Well, it's just been these events in California, but you know, there's another interview I did yesterday that I was really, really excited about. But before that, this weekend was a couple California Libertarian Party events, and always happy to support the party. And I should say, if anybody wants to be a delegate to the national convention, which is the only chance you have to vote in the libertarian primary in a way that counts. State governments, they hold these weird like libertarian primaries, but they're completely irrelevant to the nomination process. It's all decided by 1,000 delegates in Austin next year. So we're working the grassroots in California, getting people signed up. If you want to get more information about that, you can go to thefreedomline.com. Right now we have a pop-up about that and a link to the California membership website. The deadline is November 16. And Mimi Robson, the chair here, always a blast to hang out with. Libertarian Party people. It was the Southern California Leadership Conference and candidate support dinner here for the California LP. But then yesterday, I got to do an interview, and this might be like the fun like follow-up interview if you guys want to get into this. But you all know who Christopher Cantwell, the crying Nazi, is, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, everybody has a fun response when they hear that name, if they recognize it. And there's always some element of cringe to it, of course. But for those in the audience who don't know, Christopher Cantwell is the crying Nazi because he was one of the organizers and speakers of the Unite the Right rally in Charlotte, where 3 people died. Although 2 of them were cops who were in a helicopter that crashed. And yes, that's a tragedy, but certainly not on the event.
Yeah.
And Christopher Cantwell, we've always had a collegial relationship, and I still have immense respect for his capabilities and his intellect and everything else. But he's the asshole who went to the dark side. Let his hate overtake him. And he actually transitioned from someone who I believe, from my experience with him, and I worked with him. I've done shows with him. He hosted my show. He hosted Adam versus the Man when I was in jail in D.C. for 4 months. And he went to the dark side of white nationalism. And it was so fun to talk to him because as he says, most libertarians are afraid to talk to him, and they hear his arguments for white nationalism and scream racist and run away and don't even give him that credibility of having thought through his positions. And so I got to do 2 hours with him yesterday and just knock down one thing after another. And this interview, I mean, it caused controversy before it happened. Oh, you're talking to the racist. Well, yeah, and Christ walked among the lepers.
Give that a platform.
Why? Well, it's his platform. I'm jumping on his platform. But
right. What you legitimize any platform you're on, though.
Well, ideas that are illegitimate regardless of where they're brought. I mean, this is there's a silly argument from. And by the way, I think the people who make this argument are infiltrators and trolls or COINTELPRO agents of some kind. When you say I'm an anarchist and you can't vote because that legitimizes the state, it's like, whoa, are you kidding? No, the state is illegitimate no matter what. Like you can't vote the state into legitimacy. You can't have it. This is like one of the premises of ethical libertarianism. You cannot have a majority violate individual rights of minority, and just because they're the majority, somehow it's magically ethical. This is insane. But it for some reason, for the angsty anarchist types, that kind of hits home. Oh, I'm so cool, I don't even vote. But like, what does the establishment want? They want the people who would challenge them to not vote. They're happy with a relatively low voter turnout. Right, like, what's that?
You are speaking my language right now. I fight this battle every fucking day, I feel like.
So, I mean, the government, you can tell, they don't want to encourage voter turnout except to make it look like they care. But they could have mandatory voting. Some countries, I think there's at least one that has some kind of mandatory voting system. Like, no, they don't want that. They want, and they don't want the 2-party system to get imbalanced either. This is why California will never split into 6 states, because they want to keep it relatively even between the two parties, so that, oh, you better not throw your vote away on a third party. You know, you got to feed in. No, this is throwing your vote away, voting for the old parties.
Yep.
So they keep you locked into that. And one of the things that they use to stifle intellectual conversation, and this is why I'm actually proud of the fact, I mean, I'm not big on pride, but like, yeah, I'm proud that I was in a position to step up and look Cantwell in the eye and say, you're fucking wrong. Your racism is fucking wrong. You have given into hate, and what you are advocating for is as evil as government. And there is something about being able to confront that, you know, with someone like Christopher Cantwell, who's very smart, very educated, very courageous as an activist, and someone I powerfully agree with on so many of the premises of ethical libertarianism, and yet so powerfully disagree with him on white nationalism and racism and the statism and the bordertarianism, nonsense that he pulls out of that. And it's something that was a really good exercise for me, because it pulled out what I think are the most beautiful parts of the message. You know, that it really is about love. It really is about recognizing the light in every human soul. It really is about seeing humanity as a global family. And through this interview, I made the economic case using his arguments to say, no, you want to expand circles of influence, circles of trust, opportunities for commerce. Yeah, it's a global human family. We can get government localized to the community level, but we have to see humanity as something worth protecting, worth defending, individual human rights that transcends race, transcends nationalism and borders and all that other nonsense that, like Christopher Cantwell, like so many other statists, and he's really one of the few true former libertarians I know. You know, we have like a 98% retention rate. You know, once you understand that the state is unethical, you cannot unlearn what you have learned. And in a sense, Christopher still gets this. So to be able to confront that directly and bring out what to me is really the most beautiful part of this message was a fun opportunity.
So you mean all those edgy boys that get on the New York Times and say, well, I'm glad I'm not a libertarian anymore, weren't really libertarian to begin with?
Yeah, no, actually that's generally the case. And I'm all for an inclusive use of the word libertarian to say anybody who believes in freedom, anybody who wants to associate with the party, call yourselves a libertarian, that's great. It's got liberty in the name, fine, embrace it. But there's something at the core of that. If you say, I'm a libertarian, I believe in freedom, at some point you have to go, well, what is freedom? Oh yeah, it's what you have when no one is forcing their will on you. And therefore it's a message of ethics, of not violating individual rights, whether you're an individual or a government. And when you realize that everything government does, as we know it today, as coercive central authorities, and we could play the anarchist-minarchist semantics game, but ultimately the goal is not to get rid of the word government or anything called government, but to raise the standard of ethics in society. So either we're getting rid of government or we're transitioning it, as I would suggest, through localization to a voluntary ethical system. And there are a lot of people who, on their way down the rabbit hole, maybe they get stuck on the Constitution ledge or the minarchist ledge, but there really is a political, philosophical, ethical bottom of the rabbit hole of realizing libertarianism. There's this singular, beautiful, uniting philosophical point of the non-aggression principle, self-ownership, love, respect, and an endorsement of the freedoms of your fellow human beings. That's at the core of libertarianism. And once you get that, you don't forget it. A lot of the people who stop at those ledges, oh yeah, I was a libertarian and then I went this way or that way. You weren't there. That's cool, but you weren't there.
Justin, so I got to jump in here for a second. Way off topic. Justin, here's what's going to happen at convention. We're going to go to somewhere and get two of those magic, like what this is, one of those shitty balance decks, and we are going to play a best of 5. If you win, I will wear a Nick Sarwark t-shirt the entire convention. And if I win, you have to wear a Max Abramson t-shirt the entire convention. May the best man win.
Dude, that's real harsh on man.
I mean, we're both going to be playing for blood, I guarantee it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wouldn't wear either of those t-shirts around convention.
Real quick.
That's why it's a great bet.
We were talking about compulsory voting earlier, and I did look it up. It's like Australia and Belgium, Luxembourg, North Korea, obviously, about half of South America, really, and then like former Britain. Australia is funny because they made it mandatory, and it seems like they made it mandatory just so they could outvote the indigenous population. Because that's not mandatory for the Aborigines, but it is for all the white people. So,
yeah,
that's compulsory voting in Australia, I guess.
If I may, Zach, that reminds me of something that's really been speaking to me a lot recently. The quote from I think it's Leela Watson, the Aboriginal activist, and I've been traveling in the bus recently, and it's awesome to have the bus back on the road. The finally free America on the side and the campaign. So when people come in gas stations and ask for books and merchandise and whatever, and it's a blast. But there's really a different attitude with this campaign, not just in localization, the everybody gets what they want strategy, but in how we recruit people. Because if you're one of the old party candidates, give me money, volunteer for my campaign, let me use you to sell out and profit from the system. I mean, that's the subtext of everything an old party politician is asking you to do and supporting them for their campaign. Unless, oh yeah, give me money and I'll pass some bullshit regulation law so that you can make more money with your company. If it's not that, and what we've done is kind of turn that on its head. In the sense that, and I think the Libertarian Party does this in general better than the old parties, but I think it's been helpful with the understanding of this quote, for me at least, to put my finger on it. And the quote from Leela Watson is, if you have come here to help, go home. We don't want your help. But if you are here because you understand that your liberty is tied up in ours, let us work together. And just today, like we were traveling. I was at the gym. I go sit outside the little Irish pub next door in the strip mall on a bench. This guy comes up and sees my tattoo and goes, "Okay, Happy Veterans Day," and that launches so much else. Anytime someone says thank you for your service, I try to say something like because I was serving bankers and politicians and war profiteers. Why would you thank me for that? Or, why don't you thank a peace activist instead who might have prevented us from committing war crimes? And, just talking to him and realizing that there are so many people in America who are ready to step up. And if you give it to them like that, if you say, let me lead you, follow me. Nah, that's not how we're going to win this revolution. It's going to be by turning people on to be the alphas of their own lives, to not be soldiers who follow orders, but warriors who are willing to risk their lives to stand up for justice. And we've really done, I think, to some degree, a special job with this campaign and the team that we've got here now of really shifting the attitude. And you guys know, like, this isn't a political campaign as much as it's an anti-political campaign, right? We're going to get rid of the federal government entirely, turn the federal election into a referendum. It really reaches people on a different level. And what I hear more than anything else on the campaign trail here is, I don't normally vote, but I come out and vote for that.
Awesome. Oh boy, Zach is doing it again.
Uh-oh. I got the echo.
Wow.
Hey, is that Aaron?
Hi, Adam.
Hey.
Sorry,
beautiful to see you there.
My daughter is expecting, and she's due the first week in December, except things have started progressing today. So we're playing a whole lot of, do I need to get in the car and drive there now or not kind of game. And it's her first, and so I'm excited.
Very cool. Congratulations.
I'm so excited, but I don't know what is going on with Zach and Dre.
Coming back. Can you guys
There's
hear me?
Dre.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Now you're good, Dre.
Yeah, I don't know. Zach's got all sorts of issues going on. So are you you're super excited? Does she know if it's going to be a boy or girl?
It's a boy.
Awesome.
It's a boy. At her gender reveal, she revealed to us that it was going to be a girl. So we went and got all kinds of stuff and prepared for a girl. And then she went and got a better ultrasound, another ultrasound, and called back and said, "Hey, Mom, sorry."
Shit.
Yeah. So we're ready for the next one too.
Well, that's cool.
It'll be fun, just in time for Christmas. It's I'm supposed to be at an LNC meeting this weekend. I'm sorry to anybody who's watching, but if this baby decides to make his appearance, I'm not going to be at that meeting. I will be here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We'll see what her doctor says again in the morning.
I'm sorry, everyone. I was using our new camera to test it out, but the connection does weird things with my computer, and it kept booting me. But man, this camera's nice, though. You can definitely tell the quality.
Oh, I saw a gender reveal today where this chick was laying on the ground on her stomach with just
the one where she farted?
blew dust out of her ass.
One.
That was crazy.
And whatever. I'm over it.
So how aren't you happy you came on here, Adam, to talk about gender reveal farting and
Hey, I came prepared.
Adam at least got the memo about that this is the Drunken Disorderly podcast.
Also, right, exactly. Also, I vape and I vote.
That's right. Good.
Wait, I don't vote because I'm a felon. Well, no, so I'm a felon and I live in Arizona and I'm not allowed to vote in Arizona. I'm allowed to run for president, but I can't vote for myself. So I might, and I'm a lifetime member of the California Libertarian Party and
Oklahoma Libertarian Party.
Yes, Oklahoma too. And I was born here, and so I might, at least according to the government, become a resident of California for 2020 in order to be a registered libertarian voting in California. And it'll be a fun little bit of, you know how the candidates always go and kind of make a deal on voting day or on election day of going out. Oh, I cast my ballot and here's my wife. And we went and, we did our civic duty and vote. Well, I'm going to have to drive from Arizona to California in order to go cast my vote and be like, yeah, something's wrong here.
Adam, let's talk about that. Let's talk about having a felony and running for president because I've seen it, right? I've seen you give a speech and say that, and people in the audience grasp their pearls. And what do you mean? Can felons run for president? Yes. But with the exception of certain things, right?
No, it's a constitutional office. I
thought it was only high crimes and misdemeanors. Like if you've been convicted of treason or something.
No, even that. Because there's a specific constitutional set of requirements to be of 35 years of age, a resident of the United States for 14 years, and a natural-born citizen. There have been cases adjudicating this where, no, they can't impose any other requirements on the office. I don't think you can be... Now, when you say high crimes and misdemeanors, you're thinking of the standards for impeachment.
Okay.
But I'm on impeachment.
Which is really vague on purpose.
Yes.
I feel like if the founding fathers would have looked ahead and saw that impeachment was going to be used as a political weapon in every president's time, they might have rethought how they made that one. Or maybe they did it that way on purpose because they're like, fuck you and your party politics.
Hold on a sec, Zach. Hold on. I got to challenge the premise of this. And this is that Oh, I got stuck on the Constitution ledge on my way down the rabbit hole. If you think that the framers, now this is an important distinction, the framers, not the founders were the ones who said, screw you to the king. We want to be independent. We're going to fight for that. We're going to stand up for that. The framers were the ones who came in 13 years later and screwed it up by creating a new central authority under the Constitution when we had the Articles of Confederation. And their general rationale was we need a stronger central authority that we can tax people to pay all these pissed off soldiers and create a central bank to continue ripping people off for all time. That they weren't looking forward in that sense to say, oh yeah, let's create a better ripoff racket for all posterity. The Bill of Rights was the excuse to pass the Constitution. It was a meaningless token of political bullshit to say, oh yes, give us this power and we'll respect your enumerated rights. And obviously, Lysander Spooner, from his quote, I think it's about 100 years ago, even at this point, is so prescient. He said, the Constitution, be it one thing or another, has either authorized the current tyranny that we are experiencing or entirely failed to prevent it, and either way is unfit to exist.
I mean, it's ironic, isn't it, that the military-industrial complex created the central bank, created all of the woes of government that we bitch about, and keeps us in debt, right? Like, yes. This is still happening.
Yes.
So
yes.
I want to point something out here, and with Aaron and Adam being veterans, I'm sure you'll understand where I'm coming from here. Going back to the Revolutionary War, you had these armies that were fighting for freedom and all of that, for the most part. I feel like the whole thing about being paid to fight wasn't an army-wide thing, and that I'm trying to figure out how to frame this. That whole having to pay the troops thing, I feel like if I was living in that time, I would have fought for the freedom that was won and wouldn't have cared about the money. I feel like that was mostly
manipulated by the people in charge of the process to benefit themselves more than the troops.
Right.
Oh, geez, really? That's always been the case? Yeah, no shit.
Well, and look, that's not exclusive to here, and it's not exclusive to that time period. I mean, Versailles was built as a home for old soldiers, right? And here we had a narcissistic king. His troops had been at war for a fucking decade, right? He brings them home not to end the war, but so they can build his fucking castle. And to get him to do it says, well, this wing over here, this beautiful wing, it was the first VA center in the fucking world.
Oh, geez. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Every time you look at history and see it from an honest perspective, it is all of the injustices that we are experiencing in the world today have immediate historical proxies. But I will say the one benefit that I've gotten from studying history would be summed up by the work of Harvard professor Steven Pinker, which is that humanity progresses. We get less violent over time. We're living in the most peaceful times in human history. You are less likely to be subject to violence at the hands of another human being than ever before. And this follows a kind of radioactive decay curve over the course of human history. You look at the world today, 90% of the violence is committed in the name of governments. And of the remaining 10%, 90% of that is directly caused by governments with the drug war and the war on poverty and all the other economic manipulations, creating desperation and incentives for crime. When you get rid of, we as a species, we've come so far. We have embraced ethics because it's good for life. It's good for markets. It's good for human happiness and safety and productivity to get along with each other instead of to fight. And we've embraced don't hit, don't steal, don't kill, but we still make this exception unless you're a cop, an IRS agent, or a soldier. And I have no doubt that, without nuclear war or a comet hitting the earth or something like that, we are going to see the end of coercive government within our lifetimes. This is the natural course of human progress. And we just get to be a part of, fighting for that next evolutionary step. It's a great time to be alive, to be able to have that historical perspective and see how it applies to today.
What comes first, a functioning colony on Mars or a government-free Earth?
Ooh.
Well, okay, so now hold on. That raises a very important semantic question again, as we got into before. We say a government-free Earth. I would rephrase that to say an Earth almost entirely free of organized coercion.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So yes, I said define what I consider government. It is that coercion.
Right. So I'm really optimistic in the sense that if this dumb sergeant here can figure out a way that in 2020 we can get 10% and we can win in 24 on a platform of getting rid of the federal government, and that localization is the global trend anyway. If you see Brexit, Scottish independence, Catalonia, Calexit, Hawaii, Alaska, Texas, I could go on in the United States, but that our generation is saying, we don't have to do things the way they've always been done because they've always been done that way. No. We can redraw all the lines on the map. We can design systems that meet our needs, meet our values in our communities, and have voluntary systems. I mean, I'm very optimistic, and I do believe that we do have to fight, because the difference between the federal government ending in 24 versus 64, 40 years of just, say, the FDA in existence, killing about 1 million people a year by putting unsafe drugs on the market and keeping life-saving drugs off the market. Just for that one irrefutable statistical example, you go, yeah, we got to kick this thing as soon as we can. But I really am optimistic. I see that the awareness rising, the internet effect, more people are waking up faster than ever. The truth is harder to deny than ever before. I mean, you can't make cannabis illegal and say, yeah, because it makes it makes black men want to bang white women. You can't get away with that kind of nonsense anymore.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, it's bad for you. What, compared to cigarettes and alcohol that you make legal? Are you kidding? No, that's you can't deny that. I think that's coming to a sense of awareness for global understanding of what government is. I'd like to think that we could get to that point even globally within 3 or 4 decades. And I understand that my analysis of this might be the best thought out in the realm of how do we get from A to B of coercive to non-coercive societies. But I will totally defer. And there's a lot of even my analysis says, I can't imagine it like logistically being less than 20 years. I can't imagine it ideologically taking more than maybe 100 years. But somewhere I would hope that, in the realm of 30 to 40 years, and it's really in the next 10 to 20 years that we get rid of most of the injustice of government. This is a logarithmic scale. It goes down on a slope where we get rid of this chunk today. With localization, the remainder of the injustice of local government is insignificant. So given that, Zach, you tell me, how does that measure up to the estimates for colonies on Mars? Because I really have no idea.
I think it's probably Mars first. And I think that because I think the initial colonizations anywhere are going to be market driven and not government driven. So I think you're talking about a different group of pioneers, right? A different group of colonists. I think maybe they're the ones that set the example. I think maybe they give us that one tool that as liberty activists, we tend to be missing. The one thing I hear more than even libertarians are crazy is show me one place anywhere in the free world where libertarianism has worked. Show me one place.
No, screw that. That's a nonsense question. There's an easy answer to that already. You don't have to go to Mars. Libertarianism is what works. Voluntary relationships are better than coercive relationships. Everywhere. It's already working. You can see that it's government that holds us back. And the question has a great historical analog that's just easy to reveal the absurdity of it. If in the age of slavery, would you say, well, there's no country where, we haven't had slavery, so slavery must be necessary? No, progress. It happens. It's real. Paradigm shift.
I get it, but I think there's a cognitive dissonance attached to not being able to visualize something. If we look at even different methods of education, There are many that say if you want a child or an individual to be able to grasp the size of an elephant, they need to see an elephant or something that is elephant sized. And I think for a lot of people, the minute they can visualize it, the minute they can lay eyes on it, it becomes reality.
I think first of all, I'm not willing to wait for a colony on Mars to show people that freedom works. And I know you're not either, Aaron, because you're such a badass activist yourself in the trenches with the LP and everything else you're doing. But the visualization point that you're making there, that they might need to see it. I think we can paint that. I think that, and I think what you put your finger on there might be a sort of weakness in libertarian messaging. Mm-hmm. And that we don't present, and again, localization makes it really easy. Hey, one step, get rid of the federal government, all these evils go away. You can imagine that, and now your state or your tribe or whatever is sovereign. Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the ways, and I could always get better in my messaging, and I'm always open to improvement and hearing more effective angles for reaching people, and yeah, painting that picture is part of it. I hope we don't have to go to Mars first.
I really think that's why community involvement is so key. That's why picking these small, winnable local races and getting involved with the governments that interact with our lives and interfere with our lives on a daily basis, like up close and personal. That's why those things are so important. That's why they're so beneficial. It paints the picture. People have to be able to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing too that about what you just said is for anybody who gets engaged at the local level, what they run into is state and federal impediments. And it's like, hey, let's do this at the local level. And you go, oh no, you can't, because you have to raise an extra so many $1,000s to go through the state permitting process and to get permission from this agency and blah. And it's like, oh crap, I had this. You connect with the vision they've already had.
Right.
I want this in my community. So okay, go make it happen. Get involved. To go see what happened. And anybody who's done, anything like that, at least if they've gotten any kind of serious challenge, they know, fish rots from the head, and that's the center of corruption that's holding back even the current demand for local customization of governance.
So, Dre, you're super active there locally in your community, your outreach events. I mean,
I try.
And do you think that's having an impact because you're on the ground, you're local, you're reaching out into your local community? Do you feel like that's had a positive impact?
I mean, I do. I don't know if it's because of what I'm doing, but I get the CD every month and I get the voter numbers and they're going up. We're getting more and more registered libertarians in my county every month. And I mean, I don't know if that's because of what I'm doing. Every time I'm in public, it comes up, whether I'm meaning to or not. I didn't realize. I'm just like chomping at the bit to tell people about freedom and liberty, you know what I mean? So whenever I'm out and about, I'm either talking about our podcast or I'm talking about liberty or, hey, there's this thing going on locally. We need to, get involved in that. And every time I go to the vape shop, luckily the one that I go to, they're pretty up on the local laws and bills that are trying to get voted on. So they'll have a little cutout, they'll have a little pamphlet or a little piece of paper to take that says, hey, they're going to vote on this bill on this date, and here's what it is, call or write in or whatever. So I try to stay in the loop with those guys. I mean, I'm hopeful, and I'm going to stay active locally as long as possible.
Yeah.
Here.
I feel like we actually do have an impact because every couple of days someone new from my job where Dre also worked comes up and will say something about the podcast. Shout out to one of my managers if you're watching. Hi. Please don't report us.
I mean, I think it's easy as an activist to become overwhelmed, right? You have those days that you go, nothing is working. I can't believe I'm bleeding for this. Everybody has those moments. But if you stop and just take a breath and look around you, you're making an impact.
Well, yeah, that's when you just need to take a breather. Whether it's a day, 2 days, a week, whatever. Take a step back. because otherwise you will lose sight of your goal and you will sit back and do nothing forever. And that's how people burn out. And that's how you see people rage quit. Well, fuck this. I got called. I'm not a real libertarian and I'm not doing enough. And my contributions aren't, I'm not getting the attaboys that I feel that I deserve. You know what? That's not why we do this.
Right. That's the problem. People forget why we do this. You got to remind yourself why you do what you do.
Yeah. You don't need a pat on the back. You're doing this for a much, much bigger cause. And that's not for any kind of accolades or, hey, you're doing such a good job. Here's your fucking cookie. No. Do it because you feel it and you feel it in your bones and you feel the need to do this as an activist, or don't, is the way I kind of see it. I'm sick of the infighting and I'm sick of the rage quitting. I have no time for it. And I need a Kleenex. I'm sorry, you guys.
We could hand out lollipops at the convention. Just put lollipops at the table, and if you need a prize, come get one.
One of the things that came up at the California Southern Leadership Conference for the LP this last weekend in my panel with the chair, Mimi, and with Jeff Hewitt, who is, the highest elected libertarian in the country as a Riverside County supervisor.
And a really good guy.
Oh, he is heart of gold, awesome dude. Absolutely the greatest guy we could have in that sense for the LP and the cause. Walking point right now as the highest elected libertarian in the country. Dude's awesome. So one of the things that came up, and it was really great to have him in on this conversation, was, are we doing things in a way that where it feels like we're playing their game? We're a party, so let's do what the old parties are doing. Or is our attitude, our methodology really in line with that which makes our message and our cause and our movement fundamentally different from liberalism or conservatism? It's libertarianism. It's an ethical philosophy, not a political set of positions and platitudes. And I don't think I have to really, whip out my whole resume to make the point here that I've been a full-time activist for 13 years. And, there are a lot of people who've been around longer than that, but I've been around long enough to see a lot of people come and go. And it's really tragic. And Dre, you mentioned the rage quitting. There's burnout, there's fade out, there's so many versions of people just disconnecting with their activism. And it really is sad. And the why that came to me in the context of this wonderful conversation in California recently came from someone accusing me of being charismatic. And I was like, well, okay, sure. What is that? Yeah, but yeah, right. No, and I'm obviously being facetious to a degree here, but I think it's an imprecise compliment to say you're charismatic. And it has a lot of weird connotations as well that don't sit perfectly well with me. And it made me want to analyze it a little bit, because obviously there's a certain energetic connection that goes along with what people call charisma as a way of relating to other people. And certainly there's a skill set, and you apply yourself to developing a skill set in communications when you realize that's important to you, or to whatever degree it is in what you're doing with your life as an activist, as a human being, to serve humanity, to serve yourself, to serve your family, the global family, whatever it is. And what I realized was that charisma is a bad description for these two things of a communication skill set, but the motivation behind it, the energetic drive, the connection, is a love for people. If you want to be good as a politician, even if you're going to fake it, if you want to be good as an activist, as a communicator, as someone, as a warrior of any kind, fighting to advance humanity, you have to cultivate that love for humanity, that love for your fellow human beings. And a lot of places where libertarians, we tend to get it wrong is in our deficiencies of self-love. And I think this is one of the biggest things that I see happening in our movement. I want to see people talk about more. And I love the way you two both touched on that. You got to remember the why. That's it. Behind everything, this is the Lovolution. This is what it's about. And I want people to talk more about how embracing the message of freedom has improved their lives. And just to use a relatively superficial example, you see a lot of people who come into the movement out of shape, overweight, because their head's been filled with propaganda about food from the mainstream media, and they think it's okay to eat fast food. They don't know about all the poison in the shit that you get at grocery stores or restaurants. You know, they don't think twice about, you know, just even conscious consumerism from that perspective. Or they've been, you know, propagandized and bullied through the government school system to feel bad about themselves, to feel beaten down, to have some of their autonomy stolen from them. And embracing this message means taking it back. And part of it, in the obvious sense, is, okay, well, I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to question everything. I'm going to question where my food comes from. I'm going to question what I'm being told. But it's also like, I am going to take charge of my life. And you see it in people's bodies and their health and the assertion of that. You know, it's really awesome to see. And I know Aaron has seen this as a libertarian state chair and just someone who's been around long enough. Like, there's this beautiful aspect of self-actualization.
Right.
And self-improvement that goes with embracing this message. It's a gift I want to share.
I think healthcare is another area.
A lot more, like basically getting over my anxiety and dealing with the demons from the military, the more I got into the libertarian movement.
Yes.
I needed the peace, the focus on peace to really offset the
trauma.
Yeah. And look, I always say this. I was not a combat vet, and that's a whole nother level of shit that I can't even understand. But as fucked up as I am, like, I can't imagine the amount of work you guys have had to do to kind of get right after that.
You know, you hear a lot of people, I say it all the time. I know Adam has said it all the time. You'll hear it a lot of time from activists that when they found the movement or when they found the party, they found their family.
Yeah.
And that is more about self-actualization than it is about anything else. It's hard to find those people you connect with when you've built all of these walls for self-protection, protection from the government, protection from the medical industry. And I work in healthcare, but let's get really honest. And Mary Ruart covers that in her book. The FDA is shaving about 18 years off each of our lives.
Yeah.
Right. The minute we say, wait a minute, if I don't own this, then I don't own anything. And we start focusing on this, your relationships improve, everything improves. Yes. So a lot of it is about self-actualization. You're finding your family because you're willing to embrace people.
Yeah, I like what you said about family. The most important family is the one you choose.
Mm-hmm. But you have to be in a physical, emotional, and mental place that you can make those choices.
Yeah.
And freedom is what gets you there.
Definitely.
You know, we see animals in like whales at SeaWorld and stuff, right? Remember all the outcry about how we have to let all the whales out? They're not doing well. And they're not doing well because they're not free. They're dying because they're not free. And so are we.
Yeah.
I mean,
I want.
And now you guys know what it's like when me and Adam hang out.
I want to kind of swing us back a little bit.
More war stories.
Right?
And more weed usually.
A lot more weed.
Yeah, well, you know. Are you coming to the Nebraska convention, Adam, on that note?
Well, you know, we have to prioritize states by size based on how many delegates they represent. And I sent
high on that list.
All right. I sent an email to all the tops because, you know, convention season is roughly January, April. And I sent 16 weekends. I sent an email to all the state chairs of the biggest 16 parties to say, hey, if you guys can coordinate and not overlap, I can be at all y'all's conventions. And of course, the LP is never going to be. We're going to get rid of government before we get the LP that organized.
Well,
but
we don't have 50 weekends. I mean, we don't. There's going to be some overlap.
No, but even
the states did a great job trying.
Yeah, well, even getting the top. Well, the other thing is we're fighting government regulations for how parties organize just by states. It's insane.
There you go.
Even in Arizona, I'm not allowed to be a party officer because in order to be a party officer, you have to be registered to vote in a specific precinct and then be a precinct captain and then be a county officer and then be a state. Like it's And yeah, so a lot of states like Massachusetts, South Carolina, which just had their convention and hosted a really exciting debate there. They have to have their conventions at weird times, but yeah, we're going to be more likely. We're gonna get rid of the federal government before the LP doesn't feel like herding cats.
At least most of it.
So in your in the presidential debate, or the campaign, I've noticed like you guys have had a fair number of debates by now. One of the things that I've been really struck by is how positive you've all been, and how
yes. Thank you.
I know there's a couple that aren't this way, but for the most part, you guys are doing a really good job at like building each other up. And building the party.
Yes, absolutely.
So, if you could, and I really need to start asking everyone this question. It just kind of came to me. If you could steal one idea from one of the others that are running, what would it be? Or something that maybe they worded a different way than you. Or
free ponies for sure. But hold on, Zach, though, can I go back to what you said about the candidates running as a team? I want to stop and take some credit for this, if I may, because my job. Right? No, but it really started with me and Arvin at the 18 convention in New Orleans, and we've always been friendly, and even when he was getting heat for some of his missteps in messaging, I was always friendly and respectful of who he was and what he represented to the party and the movement. And so he was the second one to announce, myself being the first. And, we hung out in New Orleans and we said, yeah, we're going to help each other. We're going to run as a team. If we can stage debates or we can stage, social media drama to bring attention to the party, and you're going to be the constitutionalist obstructionist president and I'm going to be the bankruptcy agent instead of president, yeah, let's have fun with that. And then, we had Dan Taxationist Theft Berman jump in. And, he's a longtime friend of mine as well. We've shared hotel rooms on the road, and, our messaging is totally complimentary. I love that dude. I love what he represents in his activism. And then we had Vermin Supreme jump in, and Vermin's awesome too. And I've known Vermin since I started supporting Ron Paul. When he was running for president, I got to interview Vermin in New Hampshire, and it was a blast to hear, oh yeah, you're going to be, all right, you're going to try to get on stage with the libertarian. All right, this is going to be fun. I like, because he's making fun of people who are trying to be president. I'm not trying to be president. I love supporting his message. And he's actually become a real legit philosophical libertarian. He's actually evolved to a certain degree, and I don't want to speak for him here, but he really is genuinely an ethical libertarian at this point. It's beautiful to see him having made that progress and to be where he is now in his activism. And then we had Kim Ruff, and she represents a real, like, if you want the straightforward constitutional candidate, you couldn't do much better than Kim, as someone grassroots who's connected to the base of the party, also fellow Arizonan. And, I love her. I will say, along with all the other candidates, hugely disagree with what that represents strategically for the party, but I have no problem saying, I love her. I want to support her. I want her message to get out. And, recently we've had, I think it's something like 20 plus candidates now who have filed. Oh, and Soraya Foss, I shouldn't forget, our Arab candidate from Florida. And she's awesome and has been great and very friendly and in the spirit of running as a team as well. And in the last debate, we had Jo Jorgensen, who just jumped in, and she's great, 96. VP nominee for the party, Ken Armstrong from Hawaii, and Jacob Hornberger announced. And I love Jacob. With,
Do you think Armstrong has an unfair advantage with that voice?
Who?
Well, I love how he makes fun of himself. He says a guy who looks like Shrek and sounds like Darth Vader. But no, Ken's a great dude. No, he has he's a Navy veteran, and he has a distinct command presence. I don't know him very well, but I like him, and I'm really happy to include him in the team spirit as well.
So Dre reminded me, kind of off to the side, we have to tell the story, or you have to tell the story of when you and Justin got maced, and kind of go through that That nonsense.
I definitely want to hear this.
Yeah,
I have
well-
many stories about the Straight Pride Parade, and I'm dying to hear it.
Oh, it was. I'm trying to think of a joke that ends with, and therefore it was an alt-right turducken of a drama cluster. But yeah, it was a really interesting event. I'll try to tell the relatively short version because the long version's about an hour. So I was invited to speak at the Straight Pride event because someone on my team was connected with one of the organizers and said, this could be a cool platform for you. Obviously there's a little controversy around it, but you're confident in maintaining your position, your message, it'll be cool. And he got me an invite to speak at the event. And, in looking at it, I'm not against, the people behind it really, but what they're doing is, this sort of alt-right trolling of the left. And, it's poking at people to laugh at them and to expose them. And there's a certain righteousness and great humor and legitimacy in that. But there's a really negative spirit. There's a mean-spiritedness to a big part of it. And I don't want to say it's counterproductive, but it's definitely suboptimal compared. Like, why make fun of people if you can, love them at the same time, right? And the premise of this is the culture war. What nonsense. The very wording of culture war. We're going to fight over the patterns of ways people have done things in the past and how they influence the present. And, what is culture? We're going to fight. But why are we fighting? Because we're forced into this centralized system. And so the speech I gave at the Straight Pride rally, when I was wearing my campaign uniform of short sleeve button down plaid. And when I had underneath it my free hugs t-shirt, and the gist of my speech was, you're all freaking idiots, and I went and I spoke at the Straight Pride rally. I said, the one thing that's great about this is that you have brought together all the people in America who so desperately need a hug. If you think straight people need a pride march, maybe you need a hug. If you're so offended by this march that you have to come out and protest and be angry about it, you definitely need a hug. If you'd rather make fun of people and giggle in the corner and be an asshole on the internet, yeah, you probably need a hug. If you think that this Straight Pride rally is somehow a threat to your civil liberties, yeah, you probably need a hug. And so I went out and at the end of the speech went and hugged everybody in the audience. And then I went over to the protesters and I was surrounded by Antifa right away. Oh, it's the Straight Pride speaker. And I had Justin O'Donnell there and AJ and I'm forgetting. I'm gonna kick myself tomorrow for forgetting the other couple dudes' names. There's a guy with Vermin Supreme who was there. And a handful of others just backing me up while I was surrounded by Antifa, like just full black bloc dudes, and screaming at me, about to like jump me, but I'm standing there wearing my free hugs t-shirt, smiling and saying all of what I'm normally doing. These, and it was Justin O'Donnell's a big dude, and AJ Olding was there, that AJ. And he's a rugby player too. He's a real imposing dude. And they're standing behind me like, no, Adam just punked those guys. And so every now and then one of the Antifa members would come up and give me a hug. They would like one of them would break ranks. And I think that, together with AJ and Justin behind me, I deliberately put myself in a situation where if it wasn't for those things, yeah, I would have gotten jumped. And it would have gotten fun really fast, but in an ugly way. But the way it got ugly, surprise, surprise, in the middle of this was the police. And
no, that never happens.
Yeah,
we always
right.
make everything better.
So there was some kind of scuffle between one of the protesters and this police captain with Boston PD as they're clearing the streets of the protesters because, overtime's done. We're out of here. Clear the streets. I mean, it was insane. I forget the numbers, but the amount of money that the city of Boston spent on this,
is that the one where the cops were telling people to leave and they were leaving and then they continued to attack them with their bikes? They had bicycles and they were kind of scooching the crowd back.
Yeah.
And the crowd was clearly had turned and was walking away.
Yeah.
Flying.
Yeah.
And
so
then
I was part of the crowd that was walking away. And I was with I'm forgetting the name. There's a handful of other dudes that were there, like, backing me up with this Antifa confrontation. But I was there at least with Justin O'Donnell and AJ Olding, and we were just backing up. Like when they started clearing the street, we were like 10, 20 feet back from the line of cops as they're moving their bicycles, picking them up, putting them down, pushing and they're not really pushing the crowd back at this point. It's like 10 Antifa jerks getting in their face. And there's a right and a wrong way to stand up to cops, and that's not it. Yeah, and one of them kind of got in one of the cops' faces and started a bit of a tussle, and this captain behind just started going crazy with the pepper spray. But it wasn't pepper spray; it was CS gas. It was something else.
Shit.
Like, yeah, and I wasn't. I mean, I've been pepper sprayed, and I've gotten the CS gas. It was the stuff they give you in the gas chamber in the Marines.
Holy shit!
And well, no, it's not. It's not like it's much worse than pepper spray.
It really isn't, but it still would have been a flashback for me.
Yeah, we do that shit for fun when I was in. Like, we would volunteer to go to the gas chamber.
Yeah, to me, it would have been a flashback to the fun of boot camp and MCT, right? Like Marine Combat Training. I loved all that stuff.
Even in basic training, it wasn't that bad. Like, have you ever gotten Tabasco sauce on the skin around your mouth? That kind of burning feeling.
Okay, yeah.
So my skin felt like that. My eyes watered a little bit. I mean, it's the constant mucus drainage.
Yeah.
It's more annoying than painful.
I had to carry someone Aaron's size out of the gas chamber just because she was in front of me and I didn't want to stay in there any longer.
So you're just like, coming with me?
She was not capable of walking, so I'm just like, okay, I'm going to grab the back of your uniform. Just go with it, and I half carried her outside.
I mean, people throw up. Everybody has a slightly different reaction, but it wasn't that bad.
Luckily, I'm the only non-military on the podcast right now, and I've never been maced or pepper sprayed. Luckily.
We can work on that. It's fine. You want to come over sometime? I carry pepper spray. Yeah, we'll take care of it. Well, I have one of my favorite videos of mine on my YouTube channel is called Adam versus the pepper spray and the taser. And my girlfriend at the time, we were making just like, all right, if you want a $10 device to put in your purse, which is going to be more effective? And it was the pepper spray. Really? But what was interesting about this is that the cop who pushed through the line, and I'd have to go over the video again, and I have a couple lawyers looking at the footage right now. But yeah, it was, and it looked like I was targeted, and I don't want to it's hard to say about me. Was it the group of us libertarians? Was it just the cluster of people who looked like they were standing behind Antifa? Yeah, who cares? Who knows? But the cop came out, and I'm like, there's a photo of a screenshot I posted on my Instagram where he's got the pepper spray or whatever it was, the CS gas, like at arm's length, and he's still like 5 feet away from me, and you can see the stream of gas in the air, and it's not like a cone. It's a stream. I mean, when it hit me, being like 10 feet away from him, or I don't know, 5 feet away from the nozzle, it was a pretty concentrated stream. And you can see that what he did in the video is he aimed for my belly button and then went up. And I had my glasses on, and it came over my glasses, and I got it full on in the face. And it was as bad as being pepper sprayed.
What an asshole.
Well, it's so concentrated and so thick, such a dense application. That'd be like, 50 to 100 times worse than the gas chamber, where it's just kind of in the air.
No, the gas chamber was nothing compared to this. And like, you take your mask off, open your eyes, close your eyes. I mean, you burns, you come out 5 minutes later, you're fine. This is more like it's with you for a few hours, and
that wouldn't be the first time. Wouldn't be the first time you were targeted. Like, I wouldn't be shocked.
You don't say.
I mean, like there's video of you being targeted. A lot of video of you being targeted.
Yeah, well, the other one they really screwed up with and made very blatant from the videos when I got arrested in Philly, and there's they even have a guy like it, and I don't know, I can't judge the guy, but it like he's trying to put a joint in my back pocket as I'm getting dragged out by cops when other people are smoking weed and I have the microphone in my hand. I mean, that one was bad. That was I did a week in a federal joint in Philly with N.A. Poe, great activist out of Philly, bigly responsible for the decrim status in Philly right now with his activism there. But yeah, well.
I mean, the veterans.
Wait a minute. Who was putting the joint in your pocket? Was that a cop?
Watch the video. You can look it up. Adam Kokesh, Smoke Down Prohibition, arrested. You'll find it on my channel. It's a really interesting video.
Throw in there. Kokesh is the presidential candidate you want to party with, because most people don't have the stamina to party with meth.
Yeah, I'll let you go to bed at the end of the night.
Well, I've never done bath salts, so I don't know how that would work out. I know I can keep up with Adam, though.
That sounds like a challenge. Are you going to let her get away with that?
Are we going to have a drinking contest now? Is this how we're going to settle this?
Smoking and drinking, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not worried.
Dude, sleep the day before, Dre.
I'll be
The
fine.
entire day.
Sleep the week after when you lose.
Okay. I'll see you in Austin.
All right. Yes, after Austin.
I mean, look, we're doing a toga party in Nebraska for the Nebraska convention. So
We are.
Oh man, I can't wait. Mostly because
Well, if it doesn't conflict, I'll be there.
It's in February, so we'll keep you posted.
All right. Well, if you had it on a weekday,
you want to be in February.
True. You might not get out when you want to.
well, if you can, I've been encouraging the smaller states to do it on weekdays, but I don't know how realistic that is. But I have been, I'm pretty confident. I think Aaron will back me up on this. In the last 3 years, more than any LNC member or any state chair or any other party activist, I've been to more state conventions than anybody else, and it's been
Shots
awesome.
fired at Josh Smith.
I was just going to say.
Look, Josh is hitting he's hitting a hell of conventions. He is. But Adam's got about a 5-year head start on him, too.
I was invited to speak at libertarian conventions going back to, I first became a lifetime member in 2004 when I got back from Iraq, and it was the first time I could afford it. It was only $1,000 back then. With inflation, it's up to $1,500 now. But yeah, I got my national lifetime membership when I got back from Iraq, and even in the last 2 years, Josh is, I'm pretty sure he's a close second. If you look at just the last 3 years or 2 years at this point of state conventions, but even there, I've got him beat, and certainly over the last decade, I think I've got him beat by a much bigger margin. But no, I love it. This is like, for all the things that people want to say, to hate on the Libertarian Party, the Facebook trolls, it's such just bullshit nonsense. I have yet to hear a single complaint about the Libertarian Party that couldn't be solved by the person complaining showing up and doing something about it. Even if it was that you didn't like the nominee. Gary Johnson barely won the nomination. One activist, one of the other campaigns could have thrown it to Austin Peterson or McAfee or Perry even at that point. And that's why we're doing the work early. My team, they care about this message. They care about localization. I want to win the nomination because I want this message forwarded in the right way. I don't want us to have another, not quite libertarian as the nominee. And I think that this platform uniquely represents the ethical libertarianism in a way that no other platform could, to say, yeah, I'm going to put on the ring of fire and somehow magically I'm not going to be corrupted by it. No, we're going to throw the ring directly into the fire, take the federal government through a bankruptcy process. And this idea of localization based on love and respect and getting government down to the community level, it really is uniting people. 2020 is going to be a huge year for the LP. And I really encourage people to get involved. LP.org. I hope you check out my campaign, of course. KokeshForPresident.com if you can't. I'm sure Zach's organized enough. He's got it in the notes. But if you can't remember how to spell my funny last name, it's thefreedomline.com. My book is there for free. And you can see my calendar at the Freedom Line. I hope to see y'all at state conventions. And if you want to be a delegate here in California, registration deadline is coming up November 16th, ca.lp.org. And sign up today. The 16th is the we have an event here in Huntington Beach. Thank you for the reminder. That's on the 15th. Surf Dogs in Huntington Beach with 390. It's going to be a really fun punk show. I'm going to be speaking. Mimi's going to be there representing the state party. Angela McCardle, a great organizer, putting that together with Ron Lucker of the band 390. Really excited about this one. We had a couple days to chill, although I've got a few more interviews. I'm doing, since you asked earlier, Zach, I've also got an in-studio interview with comedian Sam Tripoli this week here somewhere LA-ish. And it's just, we drew a line in the sand. And people keep coming across, and we keep building momentum every day. It feels amazing. I love being on the road. I love representing this message. I wouldn't want to do anything else with my life. And, Zach and Dre and Aaron, thanks for doing this and putting this together and for plugging away. I know independent media. I mean, I've been through all of it. I might have the most shadow banned channel on YouTube. And to anybody who's watching this live stream, support independent media. Put your money where your ears are, or your eye, whatever you get the idea. But yeah.
Remember subscribestar.com/N-disorderly.
On that note, yes, do it. The technology means nothing without active, conscious engagement, and supporting independent media is a big part of realizing the potential of the internet. So thanks for doing this, and thanks for everybody watching who makes this show possible.
I have one last question before we throw this out.
All right, hit me.
Something just fell off my desk. 1 second. Whatever. Here we go. So, Bill Weld shows up to the 2020 convention. Does he get a free hug?
Free hugs are for everyone.
Okay.
Even if they're sorry.
Everyone. Everybody deserves a hug.
There you go, everyone.
Even Bill Weld.
So you can watch Bill Weld get a free hug from Adam Kokesh. I'm gonna make it happen. If he shows up, I'm gonna follow him around and be like, you should go get a hug from Adam. Don't mind this video camera. Just go get a hug from Adam.
Right. We'll have video cameras in every angle. Oh God.
So thank you very much for coming on. This was great. You just plugged everything. Like you're on this. We don't get many guests that
Yep. Good job.
The professional right here. So thank you for coming on. Everyone else, I know we haven't been doing Thursday shows lately. Blame Dre.
Tell me who you people want to have on.
Yeah. Also, send us who you want to have on. We have Aaron Pyle next Tuesday, and I'm going to start doing some heavy recruiting for our next kind of. I batch our people. Like I'll get 3 or 4 at a time, build out a month, and then stop because I'm lazy. So tell me who I need to batch next, and thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. And
Zach, I got to say one last thing. I promise you. I know I'm a good hugger, but I am by the national convention. I will be such a good hugger that I will be able to hug the statism out of Bill Weld.
Is that going to be like a weird exorcism? We need to get on that.
That's like a gauntlet, man.
I'm on it. I'm gonna start training tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
Everyone, give Adam hugs so that he gets better at it, so we can turn Bill Weld libertarian.
Peace and love, y'all.
See y'all next week.
Bye-bye.